Well, we'll start with some jokes because I think the day calls for it. Chris's purple beard was $1 million out of our budget to get him to do that. If you want him to do your corporate colors, talk to him after this. I read the news here very quickly walking down. There's something about state of emergency. They're running out of Corona in San Francisco, so don't forget to drink one. But seriously, I was only given 5 minutes, so I'll get to it. I start usually my presentations with a laugh. The only groups that still rob people physically are people who did not advance into cyber. And what you're about to learn here today, that the amazing speakers like Ed, Jim, Teresa, Chris are going to talk to you about what they see. As Ed said, feel free to ask them questions. But the theme is very simple. I want you to pay attention to the next few slides because we're asking people like you who are coming to this event to help us raise the stature of the issues we see and go fight them together. The reason I'm here is because one day at my last job, I realized where the money goes, where people steal it. I was the head of risk at American Express, came to work on Monday after Thanksgiving, an interesting loss, and while everybody was running around trying to figure out what was going on, I was asking, well, I understand we lost this much money, but where did it go? Like, who's using it and for what reasons? And I still remember that day, once I realized when you trace the money, where it goes, your job is no longer just to manage some bips or basis points. Here's Ken Pala, who used to be a fraud fighter at Union Bank of California. Will tell you, our bosses will tell us, make sure we don't lose this much money, which is good, but every dollar we do use is actually used for very, very bad things. So my job changed to a mission to say, you know what, it's not just protecting the bank or the customers, but actually preventing the money from reaching these nefarious activities. And that's why we're calling this event the iResilience, because we want to start curbing the funding of evil above and beyond our jobs. Because the money that we lose does not go to buy someone's grandma a gift. Pause for effect. The crime, I won't belabor it. We're all here with the 3 letters RSA. We all know what's happening, but the crime is very, very old. It's just that the technology keeps changing of how it's being committed. But essentially, it's masquerading. One customer is the next. And our claim here at Trusona would be if we are protecting accounts just with username and password, and you read the newspapers like I do, breaches happen all the time, you will be none the wiser to know is it your customer or their evil twin, just like in this story, when they come to you. So we are on a journey to abolish passwords because it's just not a good way to know who's who in the zoo. To make my case in the last 3 minutes I have is this. How many people have seen or heard about this tweet? Raise your hand. I do this presentation all over, and the most I get is 50% of the audience. This tweet, and I know Twitter today is on a different stature, but in 2013, this one tweet on the Associated Press account changed the market. $140 billion drop in 90 seconds. You're looking at the biggest heist in history. We did not revolt that day. There was no state of emergency declared in San Francisco. We all went to Starbucks, I guess. But when you study this and where the money went, I hope you'll be appalled as I do, because if you know that to get to the AP account, you only need username and password, and you know that by publishing this, you will affect the auto trading, and you would short your stock, you all know what that means. Someone made a lot of money. And that someone in this case is the Syrian Electronic Army funding their operations to fight the rebels. And we allowed this to happen, we as a society, not we as the people here. So if you still think about it as just my job and security, what I'm trying to say is let's open the aperture because the problem is changing the world. When you follow the money, when you learn where it goes, and this is a Forbes story, you realize that it actually changes far more things in society than losing the money itself. And if we can leave you, if you leave this room with one message, it's that. When I go to sleep, I read stuff about fraud. This one will put you to sleep. It's 156 pages, so I just took the most important paragraph to share with you. If you want to read the rest, go dig it out. It's a UN report from the United Nations called The Use of the Internet for Terrorist Purposes. Guys, if this is your job, go read it and see what happens to the money they take from you or your bank or records of healthcare or e-commerce or Bitcoin wallets, you name it, and how slowly, slowly, slowly it trickles down to fund really, really bad things. So I'll leave you with one tip, and in my last 60 seconds, give the mic to somebody else. Every year, I'm sure you all see this. It's a funny story in the news. Ha, 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 the most common passwords. We all look at it and say, like, oh, would ever pick these passwords? Your clients are picking these passwords. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is 18% of most accounts in most institutions. Let me repeat, 1/8. Why am I telling you this? Because you can change something as soon as you get back to your office to help curb the funding of evil. And here's what it is. I am sure in your systems you've said, well, the average person coming in, I'll give him 3 guesses of this password, and after that I'll do, wait. Thank you. After that, I'll lock them up, right? As security practitioners, that's how we think. Right? But if I know that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the most common password, all I need to do is try it once, not 3 times, not 4 times, once on all of your accounts. And I just opened 18% of your doors. There, I'll leave it with that. It's no longer good enough to think about these things as this is the user, that's their password, I'll give him. The world is so different now that if we still use username and password these things, unfortunately, the door will be opened and the money will leave. So if I can do one thing, I'll do a call to action. If you go back to your office, change this one thing. Either get rid of passwords and start giving alternatives, or don't think about the 3 strikes you're out rule. Start monitoring all the logins and see, why do I have this one device going into all the accounts once, which should not raise any alerts, right? Because it's not trying to lock something up. If you change the thought with your team about this, I've done my job here. And with that, Ed is going to give me the hook. Thank you. Stay for the good speakers, and later on we'll have a panel here. Thank you.
Nice job. Thank you.